Hello there, I'm Janie Goddard, President of the Complementary Medical Association, and a very warm welcome to this third recording that we've made. We're bringing you recordings every day of the week as part of the Complementary Medical Association's Mental Health Initiative. We know that so many people are really suffering during lockdown, and it is absolutely crucial that we step up and do whatever we can to help. Now, yesterday, if you watched yesterday's video, you'll see that we spoke about the top 5 things that you can do to actually stay well during the uncertainty of COVID. Now, obviously, I explained that I was just bringing you 5 yesterday because we've actually created 10 suggestions for you. But we didn't want to overwhelm you because obviously that would be counterproductive and actually quite stressful. So we thought that was not a good idea. We'd take things a little bit by bit, which is what we've been saying. We've been talking about chunking down, creating manageable steps. So and we spoke about that quite a lot yesterday. So if you didn't see that video, go and check it out. And do stick with me to the end because we've got some amazingly, really actionable tips for you. So if you're dealing with uncertainty, if you're dealing with stress of lockdown and COVID in general, or if you're dealing with any of these sort of concomitant problems that so many are experiencing at the moment with financial issues and so on, and it just all gets overwhelming. Wait and just have a little look and see what you can pick and choose out of these next 5 tips that we're going to share with you today. So without further ado, let's crack on. So the next tip was where we thought that it was really helpful to suggest staying in the moment, staying present. As we know, restrictions and regulations and the general situation out there, it just changes so frequently. And the problem is we genuinely don't know from one day to the next what tier we're in, or whether we're in lockdown, whether we're not in lockdown. We don't know whether the pubs are open, we don't know whether the restaurants are open, we don't know if the cinemas are open. There's so much uncertainty, and they'll say one thing and then they'll turn around and say something completely different, and it just gets to the point where I know that myself and my colleagues, we're just constantly trying to keep on top of all of this, but it's really, really difficult, and we know it is for everybody. So don't dwell on the past or fixate on the future or get bogged down by things that you can't actually know. So it's really important that you sort of cultivate the wisdom to only deal with the things that you can actually know about, rather than kind of thinking about, oh, well, tomorrow or next week or next month or whatever. Those are all out there in the future, and we don't know what's going to happen. So the point is, bring yourself back into the current moment and think about what are the things that you can do at the moment. What are the things that you can do to just improve life? What can you do to actually make this current moment better? In fact, they talk about this sort of thing in relaxation techniques, mindfulness training. All of these things are fantastic for bringing us back into ourselves and into the here and now. Because they do say, don't they, the past is the past, the future is the future, the gift is in the present. That's to paraphrase something, but it makes the point, doesn't it? That, by staying present, we actually then can dispense with regrets about the past or even making things up about the future, because that's all we can do, because none of us knows, what can happen next. So another tip is actually to get outside. Another thing that will bring you into yourself and into the present moment is getting outside and connecting with nature. It really helps you to sort of focus on what's going on now. So if you're lucky enough to live somewhere where you can perhaps get out into a forest, just walking in a forest or in the woods and listening to the birds singing, listening to the wind through the leaves and so on. All of these are really helpful steps that you can take right now to remain present. And again, as I said yesterday, we've always got links for you under the videos. So we've got links to NHS support if you are struggling, and if you're based in the UK, that is. We've also got links to lots and lots of different charities as well. Don't forget that the Complementary Medical Association, we have a huge database of incredibly gifted practitioners, many of whom work with mental health and well-being issues. And also, as I've also pointed out, is that you can potentially find somewhere that's training the counsellors and psychotherapists of tomorrow, and they will often actually have openings for people to be guinea pigs. That's not to say you're going to be experimented on. Don't get that idea, because that would be weird. But if if you're struggling and you would struggle to pay to see somebody privately, and if there's too much of a waiting list on the NHS, and I know there can be, especially at the moment, then you can possibly find local centres where you've got different types of therapists in training, and they will take you on as a case study. Now, these are trained, they're already trained, and they're just at the very end of their studies, and they're having to get their case numbers up, so they then submit those to their examiners and so on. So these are not brand spanking new practitioners who are fresh off the boat and haven't done anything before with no experience. These are experienced people just getting their final exams, or actually adding on another qualification. They can be very senior in many cases, and they're actually just adding another therapeutic tool to their toolbox. My next tip for today is reframing your thoughts. Now, reframing is a really interesting concept, and I have touched on it a couple of videos ago. Reframing is a very neat psychological exercise that you can do that changes the way that you look at things. So, for example, if you tend to find that you keep getting caught up in negative thoughts and feelings and actions, and it's happening for so many people at the moment, there is a way that you can actually change and change the way that you view what's happening. So, for example, if you're really disappointed about what was supposed to happen this year, or scared of what the future may hold, you may find yourself sort of going into a negative spiral where you just end up fixating on these issues and convince yourself that the worst will happen. But if you just take a step back and examine the evidence for your thoughts and explore other ways of looking at the situation, it won't necessarily resolve the problem, but it can give you a break from that negative spiral. And so, for example, let me give you an example of, okay, we spoke about NHS waiting lists just now. Okay, so a lot of people would be saying, oh, it's COVID, furlough, people losing their jobs, and people getting very sick, and some people dying, and all of these tragedies that are going on, and the politics, all of the politics is so deeply stressful, and then there's fake news, and you just end up just not knowing which way is up. But taking that example of the NHS, you've got somebody who's moaning, let's say, about the NHS to you. What about reframing that and flipping it around and saying, yes, but we're so lucky to have the NHS. Other countries don't have this jewel in our crown. And so that's what I mean by reframing. It's taking something really negative and flipping it around to see the positive in it, and it can be done. I'm not talking about Pollyanna thinking, oh, it's all going to be okay, oh, we don't have to make any effort, oh, it's all going to be all right, it'll turn out okay in the end. Because, that's just unrealistic. There's a lot of good to be said for being realistic. But you know what? If you can cultivate a sense of optimism, and I know when things are really dark and you're feeling really down, it can be very, very difficult to do that. But if you could just break state, as in stop what you're doing, if you're sitting there just going down and down and down in the spiral, if you can break state and just get yourself outside and walk for half an hour, you will feel different. I know it's a huge ask if you're feeling down, but if you can force yourself to do it, you'll find that it could just well turn things around for you. And then it enables you to start to choose somewhat more positive thoughts. Remember, we spoke about chunking down as well. If you've got overwhelming tasks, if you can just reduce those down, just those little chunks, when you have a little victory of being able to do one chunk of your momentous task, then that will give you a little reward, a little little shot of dopamine, again, that rewires and repatterns and just changes the way that your neurology works. And so again, you'll be able to choose better thoughts, more positive thoughts. So all of these things come together to help, because this is, you know, we have to look at health and well-being, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it is, from a really holistic perspective. Now, my eighth thing that we wrote in our list of 10 is that you've got to be really personal about this. You've got to decide which strategies work for you. So the next few videos, I'm going to be talking about little individual strategies, such as getting good sleep, such as exercise, such as nutrition, and so on. You've got to think about all of these strategies that will actually work for you, and pick and choose, try some on for size, see how they work for you. So, excuse me, uncertainty, particularly during COVID, for example, and the changing restrictions for work and home and other people's visits and other people's expectations of what you will or will not do for them and so on, put immense strain on us. If we're feeling completely overwhelmed, remember, it's not the first time you've faced a challenge in life. You've probably already actually got a heck of a lot of life skills and strengths and talents that will help you and support you in getting through this situation. Think about the strategies that have worked for you before in your life. Could you maybe adapt some of these strategies for actually coping right now with things, even though they look very, very dark? Whatever it is, commit to making this little stock taking part of your daily routine. And remember that realizing if you need professional help, the strong thing is to go and get it. You know, there's nothing heroic about toughing it out at all. If you need help, you must get it, whether it's from the Complementary Medical Association, or by going to your GP, or phoning Samaritans, or just talking to somebody who's able to counsel within a non-judgmental way, or even just listen to you in a non-judgmental way will help. Only do what's comfortable. Tip 9, only do what's comfortable. As the situation evolves, it's important to make sure that we're doing things at our own pace. Don't let other people pressurize you into doing certain things or being a certain way. You've got to make sure that you are looking after yourself and doing things in the way that you want to do them. Otherwise, you'll end up being overwhelmed and trying to please people, and you know that is just... it's a zero-sum game trying to please people, because you'll never please all the people all the time, and ultimately it just drains you, and you end up again just feeling worse and worse and worse, because you can't be all things to all people. So obviously it's completely natural to have concerns, discuss them with people and so on. If you can be somebody who can actually maybe hold a safe space for somebody else, if you have a friend or a loved one who's suffering at the moment, are you able to maybe sit down and take a little time out of your day and just hold a space for them in a really non-judgmental way that enables them to get everything that they're going through off their chest? That would be a wonderful thing to do, because that way you see you're giving back and you're helping, and then that in turn gives you a buzz and increases your endorphin levels, your feel-good hormones and chemicals. So honest communication is absolutely vital, but as we're expecting and we need others to give us the space to be able to move at our own speed, similarly, we have to be able to do that for our friends and loved ones as well. So remember that not to put pressure on other people as well. Very important, and we often forget that sort of thing. Finally, tip 10 is get practical advice. Talk to people that you really trust and support if you need it. There is a lot of help out there. If you're worried about employment or housing, you have rights. You do. You can talk to Citizens Advice Bureau, or Citizens Advice as they are, and I'm aging myself there, but Citizens Advice as it's now called. You can phone up the local council and talk to somebody there and get your benefits checked, because the chances are that you may possibly be due some money or some support from the government. There's every possibility that might actually be the case. If you're worried about bills or debts, by all means, speak to an expert. effort. Again, if you just Google it, worried about bills and debt, you'll find resources. Again, Citizens Advice can point you in the right direction, even if they can't actually help you themselves. You can actually get debt deferred. You know, they're still running the mortgage holidays, for example. There's a lot that can be done. I know friends of mine who've not been able to get out. I've got some elderly friends. They've not been able to get out to the shops, and then the shops didn't have any delivery slots left. So what they did was they contacted the local council. The local council put a phone call through to the local food bank, and then and with the specifications of the likes and dislikes of foods and so on that these elderly people actually wanted, they had a delivery of the most fabulous items. And these are people who never thought they would be using a food bank, but my goodness, these are exceptional times. So there's no time now to actually start thinking, oh, that's not for me, I wouldn't ever do that. These things are here to help us. So you've got to remember that, you know, you must take advantage of everything that's out there that may just make that small amount of difference. And there's something wonderful about being helped, because when we're helped, we feel seen, we feel acknowledged. And when we feel acknowledged, it empowers us, and we can then maybe take that help on and give it to somebody else, because we're then a conduit for support and helping others. I hope this has been a useful session. As I always say, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Also hit the little bell icon at the side, because it's really important that, you know, we are bringing these to you every day, except for weekends when we are doing self-care and taking time off ourselves. And I just, you know, want to say that these are good videos. They are helpful and useful. And so if you click the little bell icon, what will happen is you'll get a notification when we bring a new video up for you. Okay, so take care, all the very, very best, and we'll see you tomorrow. All the best, bye.